And welcome back to Your Retirement with Insurance 365, the third Saturday of each month here on News Talk WJG. We get underway at about 7:30 in the morning here. Angela Cradaville is with us on my left. Jay is on my right. Find out more about this wonderful agency, InsuranceAgency365.com. They're also located at 711 South 13th. They want to be your clearinghouse for building your future and specifically your retirement as you get close to that retirement age. You know, maybe you're Jeffrey's age, late 50s. I'm hoping, God willing, for another 7 to 10 years. But this is the time where you, those last 10 years, Jay, are so crucial when it comes to, I guess, buttoning up the old retirement account. Is it not?
They are. And there's no need to buy anything, but getting educated on what can happen and products out there. That's the key. Just getting educated. Not everybody needs to buy life insurance or long-term care. But to get educated and then make a decision with your spouse makes sense.
Get the plan and then leave behind some good direction, which is what we talked about in the first segment here. Let's go through a few of these here. Angela, disability policy. Let's talk about some of these policies.
Sure. On disability, if you're retired, are you still paying on it? Why do you have it?
Yeah, I'm retired. I don't have to worry about my income anymore. That's a good point. Right. But sometimes those slip through the cracks, and all of a sudden I, for one, will be closely watching my expenses once I'm no longer generating revenue. And so, good point. How about life policies? How long and how do they work? Funded with what, especially as you go into retirement?
Right. A lot of people walk in our office and they have no idea what kind of life policy it is. Is it term? When is it going to run out? Is it a universal life where the cost of insurance is more than what you're actually paying on the product and it's going to run dry, meaning it's going to get canceled? Or a lot of people just don't know what they have. So it's always good to sit down and also to check your beneficiaries. Do you still have the ex-wife on there, the ex-husband?
Ooh. Ouch.
When you got to go to the new wife and say, honey, got to change this up for sure. But then, and we've talked about this before too, leaving work and can I continue some of those benefits that I had?
Right. It's always good. I always tell people before you leave work or retire, whichever, if you're leaving before 65, come down to us, sit down and talk. We have options for you. Should we take the COBRA? Should we look at the new Obamacare? Some people have extended retiree benefits. Mm-hmm. So we just want to see what the best option is for you.
And it will depend, I guess, on your plan as far as whether or not you can continue your benefits like dental and vision. How about that?
Right. It just depends. Some do have COBRA. But is it worth having COBRA when in 18 months you have to start a new plan and your benefits start over? Mm-hmm. Why not start your benefits now and let COBRA just go away?
Right. Okay. I got her warmed up now, Jay, because we're going to go into Medicare Advantage, prescription drugs, and this is Angela's specialty.
Yes. I always sit down with everybody to talk about Medicare Supplement versus Medicare Advantage and then prescription drug. I want to educate my clients so they know which route they want to take. It's totally up to them, but before they're turning 65, you can start applying for your Medicare A and B 3 months prior to the month of your birth date. Okay. So I always suggest to at least come down before then, and I can help them sign up for Medicare A and B so we can get everything rolling that day we meet.
So February of 2027 for Jeffrey.
I'll mark you down.
I'm going to steer that in my brain so I don't forget about that. Okay, what's a Medicaid spend down?
Yeah, so we have some people that are on the bubble of getting Medicaid, which means there's Medicare. That's for people that are disabled or over 65, and Medicaid are for people that don't have a lot of assets. And so there's sometimes people get a letter that says they need to have a Medicaid spend down. What that means is they have to spend so much money on insurance products in order for their Medicaid to be eligible.
Okay.
So we work with people. We have the products to make that happen for people that need spend downs.
You'd be surprised how much of that is out there, Jeffrey.
So, and we touched a little bit on this a little earlier. and that is just kind of understanding what you have, Jay. Like when you ask somebody, what do you have for retirement? I have an IRA. Oh, do you have CDs? Do you have money markets?
Yeah.
Good time to take an inventory.
Absolutely. And we talk about, do you have enough liquid cash if something comes up? Some people will say, Jay, I really don't have much of the bank at all. They're not paying enough interest. I don't have enough. And then we, okay, well, have you thought about this coming up or this happening? And they're like, oh, no, I probably should get a savings. I probably should have, $5,000 or $10,000 in an account. Again, I don't sell the stuff. It's just to have the conversation and feel that you have a thorough plan.
Yeah. What kind of cash flow are you going to have once you're no longer generating revenue? And,
exactly.
And how, what's that picture going to look like? You really want a picture of that. We've talked about this before. Do you want to maintain your lifestyle that you currently live? I assume most people do. Or are you prepared to maybe step back, slow down in some areas? I don't know about you, but I probably want to do even a little more because I'm going to have a little more time on my hands.
Exactly.
I want to go to Arizona and play golf in December and January.
Yeah. And how important is it to have a source?
Okay, long-term care, short-term care. This is a really hot topic. I know it's a really hot product right now, long-term care insurance. But how important is it and how soon maybe?
Well, Jeffrey, each couple I meet with is different. And when I say that, it's not my job to sell you something. It is my job to find out what the risk is. So when you talk about long-term care, you're also talking about, do I want lifetime benefits or do I want 2 to 3 years? The biggest problem people have with long-term care is they've talked to someone else first. I'm just going to say it because that's the problem. I bring it up and they're like, oh, the last guy showed me it's $7,000 a year. Well, understand, everybody works on commission. So if he showed you a $7,000 plan, I can tell you that's a really, really good plan. Did you need that or did he want you to buy that? There's a difference when you listen to someone who has serviced thousands of accounts like myself and say, okay, get it on the table. What do you want to spend on long-term care? What do you want to spend? And I'll have families most of the time will say $1,000 to $2,000 a year. Now, do we need to work with your accountant on this? Because that can be tax deductible. Yeah, you'll do that? Yes. We'll work with your accountant. I had a lady last night, a widow that I talked to at 7 o'clock on the phone because she just wants the long-term care policy to go to her local attorney here in town. So today I have to bring that policy down. Long-term care is a huge servicing account, Jeffrey. It's not a one-time yes, no, boom decision over with and buy the highest price thing. Long-term care takes a long time. And then there's short-term care, so you have to understand the difference. There's hybrids versus traditional. Hybrids bring life insurance in it.
Right. Yeah.
So the long-term care value goes down, but there's life insurance with it. You see that real popular today and amongst the YouTubes and podcasts because, you're going to either get sick or die, so you should buy a hybrid because if you buy a hybrid, Jeffrey, your money comes back because you are either going to get sick or die. That's a concept. That doesn't mean it's right, but I expose people to that kind of thinking. Just this week, I had a guy who I wouldn't call him a friend of mine, but he's been in the business with me for 30 years and I've known him and I just found out he died and he was 61 and I asked what happened and he went to his insurance office one day and then the next day he went to another insurance office about 30 miles down the road and thought it was his. And for about 30 days at the age of 61, he struggled. Everybody was, and he ran an office just like mine. It'd be like me getting sick soon. Yeah. 61's not far away.
Right.
And then he fell and died.
Oh,
a guy like that, do you have those expenses of that month where things obviously went a little crazy?
Yeah.
In the business and the house and those are things you just have to talk about. You have to understand, is my product designed for those things? Can they happen? And the thing you don't want to do is be insurance poor. I'll say that. I hear that Jeffrey, if I probably had $1 for every time I heard that,
yeah,
I'd have been retired a long time ago.
Yeah.
Everybody says they're insurance poor.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you bought too much. You bought too much. Do you know what you bought? Well, no.
We're running out of time here. I want to touch on a couple more of these. Final expenses versus a burial trust versus the funeral home. Angela, you going to take that one for me?
Sure. Final expense, that would be like a life insurance policy. So when people come in wanting to know what they need to do for their funeral, we need to assess, is a final expense the right thing for them? Or is a burial trust the right thing for them? Mm-hmm. Them going to a funeral home and prepaying their funeral, the thing that people forget about is they're locked into that funeral home. I had a lady in my office, her husband just passed away. She's thinking about moving. So if she would have went to a funeral home and paid for her funeral, and if she moves down to Lincoln, well, her kids aren't going to want to come back to Norfolk because they're not from here.
Okay.
So with us, a final expense and a burial trust, they are portable to wherever in the United States you may go.
Jay, annuity versus RMD.
Just understanding objectively, sitting down with someone, what's my RMD, my required minimum distribution off my IRA at 70 and a half versus a guaranteed income payment. When you talk about annuities, people say to me, well, I don't like annuities, Jay. And I'll say, which kind do you have? An annuity. There's a difference between fixed annuities, variable annuities, fixed index annuities, income riders, joint income riders. Don't just, that's like saying I don't like cars, but really you just have a problem with one kind.
Sure.
And so you just say, well, I don't like cars. Well, there's a lot of different cars on the road.
Yeah.
So that's what we go through there. And then, that's
And
simply a discussion.
And pensions, you don't see those as much as we did years and years ago, but some folks, they have them.
When you look at your pensions, when you look at your retirement, are you signing up for Joint and Survivor? Or are you just joining up for yourself? I mean, I have that weekly come in and they say, which one should I sign up for? And I just tell them, here's advantages, disadvantages of both. You make the decision, but I'm glad you came in. I'm glad you brought it in. There's nothing for me to sell you, but let's just look at your options and understand them.
Definitely a conversation you need to have, because I know, Jay, you've seen the ugly side of that as well. So there you go, folks. It's your retirement with Insurance 365. These folks are the clearinghouse for having those conversations, those very important conversations, so you can have a very safe and efficient retirement. So you can work on enjoying yourself and not having to worry about all of these problems that could come if you don't make the right decisions, or at least have the conversations right now. Find out more. Call on Angela or Jay at Insurance 365, InsuranceAgency365.com, and they're at 711 South 13th here in Norfolk. Guys, thanks for coming in again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen. It is your retirement with Insurance 365. We do this the third Saturday of every month here on News Talk WJG at 7:30. As you look at your radio, that's Angela Cradaville on the left. Say hi, Angela.
Hello.
And on the right, Mr. Jay Kenobi. You can find out more about this great agency, InsuranceAgency365.com, and they're located at 711 South 13th. And we always say, if you miss it, you are not paying attention, because their name is as wide as the building on the building. You can't miss it. So, but Jay, today you wanted to talk more about the mission of the agency rather than some of the products that we've talked about up to this point in time. Go back, take us back 6 years, 2015, when you kind of reorganized your group, and you really defined a very specific mission for Insurance 365.
Yeah, thanks, Jeffrey. That's what we looked at. We were in the insurance business for 20 years, and we just watched the behavior and needs, and obviously studied a lot of from the internet, from classes, seminars, just human behavior and human needs. And what we found we enjoyed, and what people needed, was that senior market needed attention. And they needed attention, Jeffrey, in a way that wasn't a come to town, stay at Super 8, sell some product. That was not what they needed. What the senior market needed was someone to help them with their plans, not necessarily sell them, someone to be a voice to, someone to be a listening person for, and get things in line, because there's so much going on in those lives. I mean, people say, they're retired. What do they have going on? Let me tell you, they have a lot going on, and they have a lot of things they have to get correct, right, at least addressed. And so when Angela and I and Adrian found this agency, we really set out to say, we want to do something that nobody in Northeast Nebraska is doing. We want to put a location physical. We want to become accessible. And we want to work with this type of person every single day, adjust with their needs, listen to their needs, find solutions, and just plain and simple help them.
Yeah, even if you don't necessarily carry the product that they might need, I would call it becoming a clearinghouse for people who are approaching age 65. So let's set this up here with a conversation we had before we came on the air. And it's just that as people approach retirement, we just figure, okay, we've been saving, we've been putting away, we've been, contributing to the 401k for 30 years. And when I finally decide I'm going to retire, all the money's going to be there. But there still has to be a plan to do this. So you were visited by, I won't use names here, some folks who were in their 80s and had no will.
Oh, that happens weekly. And it's okay. It's just, see, Jeffrey, you have to remember, no one's really pitching a will and getting paid, right? I mean, I don't get paid to pitch a will.
Yeah.
I'm not an attorney.
But what a mess you leave behind.
You do. You need instructions and you need encouragement to just get it completed. And they will say, what attorney would you like me to go see? Who does this and who does it well? And who will listen and be prompt and yet be there in 10 years or 20 years down the road. So, yeah, we run across people constantly. Healthcare power of attorney, I think it's critical. You know what I mean by that is if something happens to you, Jeffrey, like an accident, a brain aneurysm, a stroke, that your wife isn't talking with your kids and having different requests as to what to do with you, you know, and will is very important. Will is so important because people forget they have lots of things. They don't think they do, but they have lots of things. Yesterday, I worked with a client that the attorney just made a wish list, a piece of paper, Jeffrey, that just said the enclosed furnitures in my house, belongings, write the name down and the child's name. And the customer of mine was like, wow. And I'm like, wow, you know, this is good.
Yeah.
Because there's always those 5 to 10 things that you own that may not have a lot of financial value, but you just want to make sure they go back to that child. That they had a meaning to that one. And, you know, you know, that those are things that I just think we take the time. Angela and I, Lori, we've got Adrian, we've got Kenny, Sarah. We take the time to sit and listen and help you get more courageous in taking those steps.
Yeah. So I'm going to hold up a binder here to the microphone so you guys can all see this, but it's a binder that everybody gets who comes to Insurance 365, and it really is a clearinghouse of all of the things here that we want to try to talk about today. So Angela, talk about the binder.
We put this binder together to help people basically put everything as a summary in this folder if something would happen to them. So what I mean by that is it shows where their med sup is, where their life insurance is, their will, there's a place to put their will, their power of attorney, so their life insurance, who the beneficiaries are. So if something would ever happen, everything is in this safety net binder.
Yes. Mom, you know, if mom and dad are both gone and then the kids come home, you know, maybe they don't live around here and, oh my gosh, but then their attorney hands them this and everything is right there. It's a map to everything and how powerful that would be. So let's go through a few of these points that you guys brought to us here. We've talked about wills. We've talked about healthcare, power of attorney. Angela, talk to us about income concerns, Social Security, and their other options.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I just had a guy in this week, actually, and he's just like, I can't retire. Well, I don't have enough money. We're here to help.
Was he making that assumption, or did he know that for a fact?
He was just assuming. And so it's just, you need to talk to somebody to help you through things. If you don't know, you don't, how do you know, without talking to a professional?
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people realize after they meet with us that they do have enough money. Or, coming in for
and then the next call is to the boss, or they're typing out the old resignation letter saying, I don't need this anymore. So, but it's a fun thing, and we've talked about that before.
Well, and Jeffrey, we have a program that we walk people through, so it's not fly by the seat of your pants and I just sit and listen to your talk for 20 minutes over a cup of coffee. There's a program, and that program has been, nationally used, but not used by others in this area. But we use the program, and it allows us to listen to you, gather the facts, and put plans together for all of this stuff. And every family, it's important you understand, every family is unique. Some people are like, I want to leave my horse. And I'm like, we're talking about your horse.
Yeah.
And the next person is like, well, I have $500,000 in a 401k. And the next person says, well, I have a child with her, but she had a child before us. And here's how I want to do this.
Right.
And so, you have to follow a plan and comprehensive cover everything.
Yeah.
Everybody has different issues.
And some of those conversations aren't necessarily easy conversations to have, but it's going to be a lot easier to have that conversation than the mess that it might leave behind. And nobody wants to do that with their kids. Let's talk about 401k, IRA. Jay, do you find that people even really understand what all that means?
I will put it in terms for you that I use, and then you'll see how much people understand this. I will say something like, do you have a brokerage account, mutual funds, CDs? I have an IRA. And I say, okay,
yeah.
I understand you have an IRA, but again, do you have mutual funds, an annuity, CDs? I have an IRA.
Yeah.
Okay, then I stop them and I say, the car is the IRA. Tell me what kind of fuel runs your car. Not sure what you mean, Jay. What I mean is there mutual funds driving the performance of the car? Is there a CD driving the performance of the car? Oh, now I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
People have invested their entire life and they say, I have an IRA.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. So you just have to slow down and understand exactly where they're coming from. You know, I don't go tell farmers to plant east and west or north and south. That would be foolish. You know, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't tell the bakery how to make their donuts. It's kind of the same thing when they come into us. I just have to, okay, you don't understand this. That's okay. You've done it. Maybe you had a traditional IRA just through your bank or through an investment person. Maybe you had a Roth IRA through work. Maybe you have a 401k. There's different, a 403b. There's lots of different things. But again, I always tell people this, just educate yourself as much as you can, because these are the years it matters the most. Mm-hmm. You can be kind of reckless at 35 and 40 and you could have time to make up. But boy, getting the beneficiaries right, getting the paperwork right, understanding the taxes, understanding, how does this affect when one spouse dies? How does this affect when both of us die? Why wouldn't you just have the discussion with people who care about you in an agency who actually is designed to do this?
Yeah, and they do. We don't believe anybody else in town does this as comprehensively as Insurance 365. One more before we go to break. Land, real estate, what's the plan? Is it in writing? You guys giggle every time I bring one of these up here because you probably have a story with every one of them.
Oh, absolutely. Rental houses is one that I always just, what are the kids going to do at the rental house? We don't know. We don't care. What do you want? And I always explain, you have 3 or 4 rental houses, or you have 100 acres or 1,000 acres. Don't you want to put in writing what you want them to do? Because here's what's going to happen. When you have 3 or 4 rental houses or 1,000 acres or whatever, the one daughter in Arizona is going to say this and her husband's going to say this.
Oh, yeah.
The 2 boys around northeast Nebraska are going to say, sell it. The one in Arizona says, no, let's create an income stream from it. The other one says, well, let's everybody take their thirds and you can do what you want. Parents, you created this wealth. You created this entity.
And you direct it.
You need to tell your children, here's in writing what I would like done. So you still get along. Because here's what happens. The turkey's very salty on Thanksgiving. Because the one boy wants to sell, and the 2 girls want to take their third, and mom and dad left you $1 million worth of real estate, and we have a disagreement now for 20 to 30 years, and they're all married, and so they've got the son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. Why would you not sit down with people like us and just say, give me some ideas? What might be a solution? And again, it doesn't cost you anything. It's not like I'm saying I'm charging you $80 an hour to sit here.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Land, real estate, what's the plan, and is it in writing? This is Your Retirement with Insurance 365 with Angela Cradaville and Jay Kenobi. We'll take a break, and we are back with more next on News.